Morning, and thank you all for being here, and also the ones that are on the stream to hear about Immunicum. I will be presenting to you Immunicum, what we do, and the big plans and big expectations for 2019 is going to be a very important year for Immunicum. So we are listed in the main market, Nasdaq Stockholm, small cap, so I need to show you this. And let me tell you what is Immunicum. We operate in the immuno-oncology field. This is a very innovative area of medicine. As a matter of fact, the two Nobel prizes in medicine were just received for developing of drugs in this field, and I will show you how do we match that. So what we do, we activate, we prime the patient's own immune system to attack the cancer cells. And we do this with an off-the-shelf agent, and I'm going to explain the very big importance of this. We, as a biotech company, we are already quite advanced. We are in phase 2. As a matter of fact, we are going to get results from this phase 2 study third quarter this year. Very important for us. We also have excellent safety. We have more than 90 patients treated in different types of cancer, and so far we have excellent safety, what is very important when you combine with different classes of drugs. And we also are initiating now the development of a commercial process for manufacturing the product, and that is very important for the continued developing of ilixadencel. We have had several interactions with both the European authorities and the FDA. We have an IND that is basically the authorization from the FDA to run studies in the US. Our phase 2 already had patients in the US, and the new study we are initiating is primarily the phase part in the US. So this is very important also for us as a company. And also recently, in November, we announced a collaboration with Pfizer and Merck Serono, where they will be supplying us with the checkpoint inhibitor for the phase 2 part of the new study. And this is very important because validates our scientific concept. There are very few collaborations, so this is very important for us, but also allows us to expand the current study from the US also for Europe. And also, we are at the stage really as a growth, very big growth opportunity. Important for us, we just raised in December 350 million krona, and this was more than half of it was through a direct issue with very big and important institutional investors like the AP Fund 4, AP Fund 2, Gladiator, Adrigo, and this is very important to, of course, bring investors with a longer-term perspective and also very solid positions. And we are, set to have very big value inflection points coming very soon, already in 2019, but also 2020. And we have a very experienced team in all areas of the business. So we have three platforms. The first one, ilixadencel. I'm going to spend more time, but also two other projects in preclinical. So where do we, what is our mode of action? Where do we fit in the treatment of cancer? On your right side, this is where you have all the drugs that block the patient's own defenses against treatment. And one of the Nobel Prize in Medicine was for one of these drugs, the checkpoint inhibitors. They fit in the space. So they block the defenses, but you still need an active immune system to kill the tumor cells. And this is what we provide. We are on your left side. We prime, we activate the patient's own immune system. I tend to compare, and I use several times this example, that the tumor is like a fortress, a castle. So they create a very aggressive environment around them. So you have very few patient own immune cells present there. So the checkpoint inhibitors, they basically activity, they are going to block these defenses. It's like they are exploding the gate, the entrance to the fortress, but normally you have a very small and weak army present. So it's not going to be enough to kill the tumor cells. So what we bring is this activated, this bigger army that is stronger, that then can go through the gate and destroy this fortress. So you really, when you combine these two classes of drugs, the checkpoint inhibitors and us, or in some cases some chemotherapy or the other class of drugs, you have this synergistic effect. One, destroy the defenses, allows the patient immune system. We bring a strong and activated immune system to the play. So we do that with a cell-based product. And here starts already some of the differentiations of Elixir cell versus other cell-based products. Is that we are what we call allogeneic. Our cells are originated from healthy donors. From one healthy donor, we treat up to 50 patients. So this is a big difference. And these cells that we take from these donors, these are like blood donors, so nothing special about them. They just need to be healthy individuals. We activate them, make them pro-inflammatory, and then we freeze them. And this allows us to keep the product ready to be administered when needed in the hospital pharmacy. This is why we call it off the shelf. It's right there, ready to be administered. We can produce these cells, these batches of cells, and freeze them. We already passed a 3-year shelf life, so it means that after 3 years, these cells are still active. And this is a big differentiation to a lot of other cell-based products. We can use the same cells regardless of the type of tumor and regardless of the patient, so we don't need to do any matching. So this is also very important and a key differentiation. We currently produce in Germany, and as I mentioned, we are now moving to developing a commercial process that will allow us to initiate more advanced clinical trials and reach to an approval sooner. So what happens when it's needed? These cells then are frozen. We just put them in a bath, make them alive again, and then we inject into the tumor. Can be the primary tumor, can be the metastasis, it doesn't matter. You just need to inject one of them. You don't need to be injecting multiple times. But, in a simplified way, when you inject these cells, they are going to start producing chemical mediators that are going to recruit the patient immune cells to the site of the injection. They are going to be activated. They are going to destroy the tumor cells that are there, release what we call, a neoantigen that is like a barcode specific for that tumor, for that patient. And then the killer cells that are the killer T cells from the patient are going to pick up this barcode and then going to go into circulation through the whole body. And whenever they find a tumor cell that matches that barcode, they kill it. So the activity in reality is done by the patient's own immune cells. It's just that they were treated specifically to attack that kind of tumor. But this explains also why really Elixir cell is extremely safe, because the donor cells are destroyed in the first 2 to 3 days. So, the side effect that we have is primarily fever because you are inducing inflammatory response, but that's it. Very important when you combine with classes of drugs that are very toxic. So this is a very good advantage for us. So, this is how it works, but let me show you some of the results from the first clinical trial we did. This was in kidney cancer. You see there, on your left side, this is just as a reference. These dot spots are these killer T cells that you have. As you see, very few are in the area of the tumor because it's very aggressive. All the images that you have on your right are from one of the patients in the study. You see there's this massive infiltration. All the dark spots are these killer T cells that come to the primary tumor, but also to the metastasis. So this effect is really through the whole body. And this is the first clinical results from the study. Again, the study was concluded in 2012, but we still have patients alive. So what you see here, each bar is a patient. Was not a big study, but you can see the blue line is what you would expect as survival treated with the standard of care, Sutent, 14 to 15 months. And in the study, the patients reached the 4-year median overall survival, and some patients already passed the 5-year. And again, with excellent safety. One of the patients in the study is this one. He had a poor prognosis, multiple liver and lung metastases, and then developed 4 brain metastases. And again, we are talking about 2012, very few treatment options. He was treated with Sutent, doesn't treat brain metastasis because it doesn't get to the brain. But this patient, in the combination and the synergistic effect, was able to basically clear all metastases except a small lung metastasis that was reduced and then removed surgically. As a matter of fact, he was expected to survive for 6 months. And last year in October, we organized an event for shareholders, and this gentleman stand up and say, "No, I'm this patient here." So we could verify that he was still alive after 66 months, having a normal life. And of course, this is very rewarding for us to see, but also we use this example to say the benefit of having classes of drugs with different mechanism of action that when combined are going to have this stronger effect. So these studies and these results were very important, but of course we needed to do bigger studies. So we initiated a phase 2 study, similar type of patients in kidney cancer, but this time we have 88 patients. 58 of these patients are treated with ilixadencel plus Sutent, that is the standard of care, and then we can compare with 30 patients that only take Sutent. And this is the data that we are going to have now in the 3rd quarter this year. Very important data, is controlled, and would allow us to really have, in a bigger population, indications of the efficacy. This is also data that a lot of the potential partners we are talking to are expecting, because again, is potentially going to be key for them to confirm the interest. We also did a smaller study in phase 1 in liver cancer. We just announced a week ago the publication, so a lot of details, showing also some maintained safety, the immune activation. So we would like to proceed also with that. But the big study that we are now doing is the one you have on your right. We call it Iliad, and this is in combination with the checkpoint inhibitors. So the checkpoint inhibitors, as I showed you, are the ones that block the defenses. Unfortunately, they have relatively low efficacy. So we picked up lung, head and neck, and gastric or stomach cancer. These are very big indications. The checkpoint inhibitors by themselves have a very poor efficacy. So we expect that when we combine with ilixadencel, we will increase that efficacy. We have 21 patients in the phase 1b that we already have centers activated in the US that are screening patients to enroll. We expect anytime soon for that to happen. And we do it in combination with the lead checkpoint inhibitor, Keytruda or pembrolizumab. This first data is already that we are going to start observing already in 2019. Is going to be important to give us in terms of safety, but also some initial indications of efficacy. And then when we move to the phase 2, these 3 indications are run like 3 studies in parallel. And in 2 of these indications, head and neck and gastric, that's where we have the collaboration with Pfizer Merck Serono. So the study can run not only in the US, but also in Europe, and then in lung with Keytruda. We also did several preclinical studies, continue doing, already showing in animals the synergistic effect of ilixadencel combined with these classes of drugs. As I mentioned to you, we raised 350 million SEK together with the cash that we have. Finances us towards the end of 2021. So from an investor perspective, this gives a stable and long runway. And of course, for us, it was very important, as I mentioned, that we were able to bring very strong and key institutional investors to the company. And they are very supportive, and they really want us to have being able to, with this financing, to cross different value inflection points. We have the phase 2 data now in our third quarter. We are also going to start getting the results from the new study. We have a small study in collaboration with the Karolinska in an orphan disease that we expect results mid-year. But then also next year we are going to have the results of the phase 1b from this new study. So there is a series of very big potential inflection points that are also, as I mentioned, very important not only to the company, but also for our discussions with potential partners. And this is to tell you that this is a very active field. You know, a lot of the companies have the checkpoint inhibitors, the ones that block the defenses, but they are missing the other part of the component. You know, so they have been basically in 2018 several acquisitions of biotechs that have the compounds in this priming part. So, you know, as a company, of course, we are in discussions with all these potential partners, and in close sharing with the data, and you know, they are waiting for the phase 2 data. But as a company, we have a clear plan, and we continue to develop everything. So we are now really in a very strong position because we are financed to 2021. We are going to have several very short-term data coming up that can really transform the company. We have, you know, already very exciting data and also, you know, excellent safety, very important in this field. We have quite a robust manufacturing process, but again, as a value to the company and to a potential deal, already initiating the activities to develop a commercial process. This is very important for us or for a partner because it saves time in the development. We have now, you know, a very strong backing from institutional investors, and you know, we continue presenting the company not only in Sweden but also in Europe and the US and in Asia to attract more investors. This is probably the biggest and the fastest growth segment. The immuno-oncology is expected to reach $72 billion in 2021. So you see there's a lot of growth, a lot of expectations. And I think that as a company, we are already very well positioned in terms of what we are doing, but also in terms of the advancement of our programs to really looking forward to make a difference in patients' lives and, of course, bring value to our investors with these very short-term value inflection points. With that, I would like to thank you, and then I'm, of course, open for questions if you have.
Thank you very much, Carlos. And please come over here and we'll discuss your company and the future. I must say I'm very impressed of what you have succeeded to do, and also that you're so well financed. That's not so common to see that.
No, it's not. But has been, you know, we were looking back now at 2018, you know, and there's been extraordinary for Immunicum. We raised the money, so that's kind of, we ended the year in a very strong position, but we also, you know, finished the enrollment of the Maracas study, the phase 2. In the beginning of last year, we got the NDA, the IND okayed by the FDA to initiate the study in the US. We activated the centers. So, you know, there's a lot happening in 2018. So it was very good, but now 2019 is going to be very exciting for us because the data that we are going to have in quarter 3 can be transformational for the company.
Yeah. when listening to you and what you have achieved and all the money you have in the bank, etc., one might think that you are about 200 people working there, but you are only 11 person in the company?
Yeah, we are 13 plus some.
You're 13 now, okay.
13 and plus some consultants. Yeah, we.
Yeah.
You know.
So how, is this what we call a virtual company?
Well,
or?
Not totally virtual. We don't have research, you know, in-house. Okay. So we do a lot of the research. We use very well-known contract organizations like Charles River. They do all our preclinical studies. We also do a lot of the research at Uppsala, where Alex Carlson-Para, our chief scientific officer, he is also the founder and one of the inventors. He works in Uppsala University, so we also do some research there. But then, as you know, clinical trials are very big, very expensive, and then we do that with very organizations. And for instance, for the new study that we have initiated, we work with PPD, that is a very big organization, but PPD Biotech, so very experienced in running clinical trials in cancer, on a world basis. So, and then we have the key people in house, so.
And you use healthy donors, allogenic donors. You have a project, IMM3, where you are aiming to use the patient's dendrite cells also?
So we, in all of the 3 projects, we use dendritic cells from donors in different ways, IMM3 is really just a process to activate, to enhance the activity of CAR-T. So it's not a CAR-T, it's a protocol, but we use these cells to make these CAR-Ts stronger. But then again, it's in preclinical. We are doing some activities. We also have IMM2 that we use the dendritic cells that transfected with a virus, but is for a systemic injection. So we are also doing some activities there. But of course, for a biotech, and I think that is important, we really need to focus our resources on the main asset that is ilixadencel.
But could you use the patient's own cells, take them out? I mean, this has been the dream since many years. You take out, when the person is healthy, you take out cells and you store them in a bank, and when the patient gets a disease, you take out his cells, her cells, and then you use them in the way you do, and then you can inject them. Is that what you have?
No, that's not what we have, and that is useful in some types of tumors, but of course very limited, because it's for that patient. You have other cell-based therapies that have a similar approach. When the patient is already sick, they do a biopsy, they take parts of the tumor, and then they select these barcodes, what barcodes they're going to use. But this is very complex because, you need to do the biopsy, select these neoantigens, and then expand the cells, and then inject in the patient. So it's for that patient is potentially going to solve the problem. That's what you do in the non-solid tumors you do with the CAR-Ts, but it's very complex to the logistics to manufacture and very expensive. So really more now you start getting the allogeneic concept, the using healthy donor cells, that in this case the donor cells are not the ones that are going to treat the patient. No. They are going to just be basically the starters of this activity, and then that's the benefit. The patient's own immune cells are going to do the job, but they were activated and programmed to attack those specific tumor cells.
Okay, so moving into finance and making money, because at the end of the day, shareholders are interested to get some return of their investment in your company. And in treating patients, normally companies make money if they can sell the drug again and again and again for the lifetime. But here you have installed 1 or 2 injections, And that's it, per patient.
Yes, so we treat...
So how will you make money in that part? How will you sell, how will you price your product?
Well, you know, again, we are still a little bit far from, you know, the concerns of pricing the product, but I think let's talk about the convenience. You know, the fact that there are only 2 or 3 injections, depending on the type of tumor, you know, makes the treatment simpler. There are other treatments where they have to be injected every other week for several months. So this is really a benefit that you only treat with 2 injections. But of course, that's the, you know, you price it as a treatment. The benefit there is in a way that we are going to be combining with the classes of drugs that are in the hands of the big pharma. We are not going to be competing with the Pfizers, the AstraZenecas, and the Mercks of the world. In reality, we can be combined with the drugs that they have with any of them. We don't need to go with one or the other. So it gives really a very big commercial potential. You know, of course, we are a biotech. We have to be realistic. So the likelihood that we will be the ones selling the ilixadencel is probably low, considering, again, the big appetite that these companies have now for these classes of drugs. But in reality, from the fact of the manufacturing, that is relatively simple. So the cost of manufacturing is not going to have a big impact on the margins. The fact that you can produce and store for a long period of time and it's available, it's a big benefit. It doesn't have very complex logistics. So it's very attractive, you know, from a commercial perspective. And the fact that we can combine with the classes of kinase inhibitors, checkpoint inhibitors, even some chemotherapies. We are exploring also other classes like immune enhancers. So we're really positioning ilixadencel as a kind of a backbone. We can be combined with different classes of drugs, and because we have this excellent safety, that is one of the big problems today, is patients need combinations, but both components are toxic. When you put them together, it's very, very high toxicity. You know, normally you don't get very excited with phase 1, the initial phase 1b data in safety, but if this year we show the similar profile of safety when we combine with the checkpoint inhibitors, as we have been showing so far, we are going to be the first compound that is in a combination is not going to be bringing added toxicity. So this is going to be very, very, very positive.
Yeah. And what about patent protection? Can you tell us about your patent?
Sure. You have, for this type of compounds, cell-based therapies, you have to, in reality, 2 different kinds of protections. We have the patents that we have, you know, already through, and we are getting new patents all the time. Our current patents are to 2031, you know, plus extensions. You know, this is before the extensions. But in reality, a stronger protection is the fact that we are a cell-based therapy, and the authorities look at each cell-based therapy as a product. So even if we didn't have patents and someone will use the same type of cells with the same process, they will need to repeat everything. They could not use any of the data. You know, think about all the biologicals, how many years it took for the first generics to come. This is even worse so the protection is even higher, because really they look at cell-based therapies as a product that needs to be, any other compound needs to be basically doing the thing. So it's a very strong additional protection.
So there's a question there. Do you have, how long is your own stock?
So if I'm a shareholder, yes. I invested in the company from the very beginning, and I've been participating in every fundraise now in each round in the rights issue. I participated fully in my pro rata. So. And as a matter of fact, every employee in the company is also a shareholder, at different levels, of course, but everybody in the company are shareholders.
Okay. Thank you very much, Carlos,
Thank you
for a very nice presentation.
Thank you for your questions.